Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Shay Explores Daily, and welcome if you're new here. On this channel I talk all things travel, fun facts, historical locations and so on and so forth. Today we're doing something a little bit different. This video is for all the tourists that come into London and they want to know what the best free museums are. So if that's you, sit back and enjoy this video. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. We are on the road to 3,000 subscribers, so sit back and enjoy. The British Museum is called the British Museum, but you'll find that everything in there is from all over the world apart from Britain. The museum is located in the Holborn area of central London, which is just not far from Oxford Street. It's on the Central and Piccadilly lines of the London Underground. The museum goes back to 1753, and inside the museum you'll see a huge variety of all kinds of things. Before I talk about what there is to see in the museum, the first thing you'll notice when you get in is the Queen Elizabeth II Great Court. So this open area here was opened by the Queen herself back in 2000, and it is a beautiful architectural display. It is literally just a glass facade that goes all the way around the top of the museum, and it's an absolutely fantastic thing to see. Since it's been open in the last 23 years, over 110 million people have walked under it, and it's a fantastic thing to see. Inside the museum you will see cool exhibitions on things such as the Rosetta Stone, ancient Rome and the Parthenian sculptures, ancient Greece. You will see things about ancient China and so on and so forth. The museum is quite big, so I recommend that you give it probably at least 2 hours to see pretty much most things. But it is a museum which is very easy to navigate. It's very well signposted, and there's plenty of places as well where you can buy drinks and snacks and so on and so forth. For those of you whose first language is not English, at the museum you can get various guides in your native language. So whether that's Spanish, Italian, Russian, Portuguese, Mandarin Chinese and so on and so forth, you can get guides in your native language. Also as well, there are various memberships for the museum, and this will give you certain access to certain parts of the museum that's more private. You can also get private tours and so on and so forth. So the museum does have a lot to see. The museum is open between 10 AM and 5 PM daily, except Friday, where the last entry is 8:15 PM. Also as well, I would recommend actually getting a ticket in advance. It is free to enter the museum, but to guarantee entry, especially at weekends, I would suggest getting a pre-booked ticket on their website, which I'll put on the screen as well. The next museum that I want to talk to you about is one of my favorites, and it's the Natural History Museum. So the Natural History Museum is big, just like the British Museum, but the Natural History Museum has exhibitions on all kinds of life forms, including dinosaurs, mammals, things like earthquakes and bugs, insects and so on and so forth. The museum is located in South Kensington, and it's located in what I call the Holy Trinity of museums in that area, which includes the Science Museum and the Victoria Albert Museum as well, which I'll talk about later in this video. One of the coolest things I love about this museum is the architecture, both on the inside and the out. As you approach the museum, you've got a fantastic view of pretty much the front facade of the museum, and it goes on for a very long way. The museum is home to about 80 million items, and its founder actually invented the word dinosaur. When you enter the museum, have a look at the cool Heinz Hall. It's the main hall where everyone enters from, mainly from the main entrance. And as you look around, you'll see some really cool things such as some giraffes and so on and so forth. If you go straight up the stairs, you also see a statue of Charles Darwin, who was a great researcher of his time. The nearest train station to the Natural History Museum is South Kensington, and this is on the District line and Circle line as well, and also the Piccadilly line. So you can actually use the Piccadilly line to go from the British Museum to the Natural History Museum as well. It takes about, I think, 20 minutes in the Piccadilly line between the two museums. The Natural History Museum's opening times are normally 10 AM to 5:50 daily, with the last entrance normally at 5:30, and they're closed during the Christmas period between Christmas Eve and Boxing Day. Now, this museum, of course, is free to enter, but I would recommend that you actually book in advance online, especially if you go on the weekend, because the museum can get very busy. To see the whole museum, I would recommend between 2 to 3 hours, just because of all the crowds and just because there's so much things to see. Just like the British Museum, you can get language guides in certain languages to help you navigate around the museum. The next museum that I want to talk about is the Science Museum. And this museum is really handy because it is literally right next door to the Natural History Museum. They're literally on the same street. So the Science Museum is quite self-explanatory. It talks all things science, including the solar system, the British Industrial Revolution. It talks about Britain's auto industry, and so on and so forth. As somebody who is a huge train fan and loves the train industry, this museum, for me personally, is probably my favourite in London, and I think it's quite underrated. Other cool facts about this museum include the fact that literally it was actually originally located in the space where the Victoria and Albert Museum is located currently, which is across the road. Also as well, this museum is very child friendly, and it was the first museum in London back in 1931 to actually open up a child friendly area. The museum also has an IMAX cinema at the back of it, and it's also got a huge collection of things such as watches as well for you to see. Now, as I mentioned before, the nearest station as well is South Kensington, but it is still free to enter, just like the Natural History Museum. With these museums, there is no parking available on site, so I would suggest taking the tube to South Kensington and visiting the museums that way. But yes, I will yet again put the link on the screen of where to buy tickets, obviously on the screen and in the description as well, but it is free to visit. The final museum that I want to speak about, the final free museum, is the Victoria and Albert Museum, and this is the final museum of what I call the Holy Trinity of museums in South Kensington. As you can tell by the name, it's named after obviously Queen Victoria and her husband Prince Albert. So the museum itself highlights Queen Victoria and Prince Albert's love for architecture and the arts, with a museum that covers approximately 12.5 acres of land, including about 145 galleries. There's about 4.5 million objects spread around the actual museum. And something really cool as well, in the middle of the museum, there's like a little sort of like stream or like a little water bit, like a fountain, which you can see as well. I will admit that I haven't actually visited this museum properly, and I might do a video on it at a later date. But whilst I walked around it to get some photos for this video, there was a really cool area which was like full of like clothes and different items of like fashion and stuff. It was really good. It was a really nice area. And also as well, with this museum, it doesn't look like you have to actually book in advance. You can just sort of walk in, which is great as well. Another cool fact is that there was actually once a plan to put a train station under the museum to actually have direct access obviously into the museum. That didn't come to plan, but the area that it's in is very commutable to all the other museums, and also as well to the tube station also. That is it guys for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've got many more cool videos coming. Let me know in the comments below. Do you want me to do more of these kind of, help guide videos? What do you want to see? In the meantime, I'll see you on the next video.